we talk about AI writing the code,
Yeah.
we talk about AI building the apps, AI replacing developers. But I think that is the wrong lens, Ramesh. That's not the way to look at it.
Right, you get this lead, everyone is excited. It could be too big a company, too small a company.
Correct.
But the SDR is continuously pursuing them because we think it's a big opportunity.
There's one strong engineer with an AI now behaves like a larger team. In essence, you're talking about upgrading a bicycle to a jet. But of course, you still need a pilot.
Now within this, I think it's gone one step ahead where the GTM engineer becomes like the most important piece in this puzzle because the GTM engineer is now building these agents.
Correct.
Because he or she has absolute visibility on what is the kind of lead that one should go behind.
The whole GTM engineer was glorified. We know like companies like Play glorified and created a lot of manual work because of that. I think that role will not exist in next 6 to 12 months.
Hi Shri.
Morning Ramesh, how you been?
Doing very well, thank you. Welcome folks to yet another episode of Outbound. I'm just thinking more and more as we speak, Shri. Should it be called Outbound or should we just say agentic by Highperformr? Everything seems to be replaced by agents. And in terms of the weekend, that was, it was the India-Pakistan game. India, of course, won it.
Okay. Of course. Okay.
Okay. I mean, it was there wasn't even a contest.
Okay.
But so many thoughts that kind of came in this world when you're kind of drowning with this whole noise around agents and how much of this agentic players should be there in the cricket field, right? There's so much of happening. Do you even need umpires?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Do we, someone to call out who's you're literally trying to make it more precision. Of course, there's a lot of technology available in sports too, but what's the use of an umpire there in a game?
So
right?
you're asking larger than life questions, Ramesh.
Yeah, I mean, that's because in our worlds, we are constantly thinking about, hey, what's next? How can we help people orchestrate more rather than being, get more work done, or what's the hierarchy? Then an organization today, we're always talking about how many orchestrators can we have rather than how many VP of sales or manager of sales SDRs should we have, right? So when you're thinking about that and then apply that perspective on a cricket match, I think the umpires can do better, right? You can have an AI umpire. Everything is done. Like the no ball today is being called by literally an AI agent. So why can't it even talk about how many balls? Is it ready? There's so much ready to go.
I mean, I think, I'm not surprised. I can see where the influence is coming, right? A lot of last week and so, right? There's a lot of chatter about how AI is just not another tech cycle.
Yeah.
It is like, it's changing how we look at things, how it's just changing the way, the companies are shaping. It's not just about productivity. It is not only about efficiency, like you said. It is just changing how, the whole thing is being built. Right?
Correct.
And it just stuck my mind. I think I'll tell you because when on the other side, I think what you're saying is very true. Now you're questioning everything, what you're saying, hey, can this done by something else, right? But if you look at the earnings call, like a lot of times when you go back and look at the public companies' earnings call, right? Look at Spotify, be it Meta, be it like Microsoft, they're all saying the same thing, without saying it directly, I'll tell you. That's what my interpretation.
I think they're being direct in a large sense anyways, right? Yeah.
So the only thing what they're talking about is that what would require, if you look at a public company, a project which would require a very large team, now they're able to get it done with few people, as less as a person or two.
Yep.
I think that is a big shift, right? So it is not about killing engineers or whatever it is, right? It is about, for sure, these agents, because now you look at it, you're talking about umpires. This is a whole big team, right? Basically, it will come down to like one person instead of having 3 umpires.
Absolutely.
That's what I see might happen. Rather than having 3 umpires in the
you
ground,
don't need them.
You have 2 in the field, 1 on the outside the field. Maybe you'll have 1 person doing all of that. Just thinking loud.
There's just one camera. That's it.
Correct.
That can do a lot.
And then have 1 umpire because you definitely need a human judgment there.
Absolutely.
Well, right? Maybe instead of 3, you might get it to 1. So that way, more precision things might happen. And that's what I felt. That's what I'm feeling. That's what stuck my mind.
Absolutely. And today, if you see the headlines, is of course a big thing where Sam Altman has gone ahead and acquired or just bought over open cloud. Right?
Okay, we'll see. Let's see whether
It's
it
an
works.
it's an interesting piece because everyone today has an agent. Like Srivatsan has an agent, Ramesh will have an agent, and so
Correct.
will every other engineer and a salesperson. What does that even mean for companies, right? Because I think what Zuckerberg also mentioned that, hey, by the time an engineer reaches office, in the bus, he's able to tell his agent to go and fix a bug, or was it Spotify, ironically.
Okay.
And by the time, see the productivity increase that's kind of happening. It's not about, hey, is AI going to ruin jobs or move them away, but how productive each engineer is getting.
Correct. So, I mean, that's where I think it's good to get to the details, right? Like what you're saying. A lot of these public companies are communicating some of these things, but not in a very obvious way. Like you said, like one example is, like Meta, right? Where they see 30% increase per engineer, whatever. You see Spotify. They went further. Their best developer, I think it's a viral post. Most of them would have seen it, right? The best developer hasn't written a code since December.
Yeah, very true.
Right? That is on this side, right? And if you take an example, that is where the whole thing is happening right now, right? They gave an example, and maybe the engineer comes on the morning, like you said, on the commute, on Slack, or on the phone. They start, they start their work, right? They ask them to ask the AI to fix the bugs. Of course, they're all merged into production. It's end to end, right? That's a big change. I think that is not remote work. That is, in a lot of sense, that's not even work.
Right? Okay.
Right? That's the way it is.
That is meta.
That's the way it is today, right? Everyone's talking about coding. We talk about AI writing the code.
Yeah.
We talk about AI building the apps, AI replacing developers. But I think that is the wrong lens, Ramesh. That's not the way to look at it.
Yeah.
Right?
And in terms of people,
right?
If you wanted to do better in the company and you had the money, we always said go and hire.
Correct.
Right? Get more headcount into that.
Correct.
But now scaling means running parallel projects or running parallel initiatives, and it's all about orchestration. And we spoke about this. It's not about the skill of a person anymore. It's how much you want to push yourself as a company, because you now have ready-made. You can make your agents ready to do the work for you, and so you keep adding these agents. And it's not about humans anymore. It's about how can one human add multiple agents to get more done. In parallel, right?
So if you, like, what does it mean, Ramesh? If you look at it, I think it's one strong engineer. If you look at it as a pattern on all this, these earnings, there's one clear message or clear behavior happening. This didn't happen last year. I think today, if you look at it in the last, the Q5 or the Q4, not the Q4, the Q4 things, right? There's one strong engineer with an AI now behaves like a larger team. In essence, you're talking about upgrading a bicycle to a jet. But of course, you still need a pilot.
Absolutely. I think, that's pretty evident from what Microsoft Copilot adoption in numbers even mean when they said that they have more than 4.5 million paid subscribers to the Microsoft Copilot, right?
Wow.
So there are engineers, there are people outside, and very recently I heard a student talk, and someone was asking, hey, which AI do you use? Is it like OpenAI or Cloud? And the kid actually answered, I use Microsoft Copilot. And she's an 8th grader. So it could be unpaid, but the fact of the matter remains is everyone is gravitating towards this to get more out of what they're already doing, right?
Yeah. So good example, and if you look at the Palantir, very practical application of Palantir, very very practical. They showed what happens when you apply AI and AI agents to business, right? For example, they give an example where in their the most recent the earnings, where they had the SAP, the whole ERP migration, which would take few years, right? But they could get it done in 2 weeks. Right?
So these are great examples, and this is getting as real, and we're seeing this shift happening in the GTM, right? As well. Specifically, I think for startup of our size, I think I can confidently say of how we are moving towards this agentic piece, and it's easy because we don't have too many people there, so we naturally gravitate towards fixing these agents. Where you do not need this entire army of qualifying the lead, talking. Of course, you need someone to talk to the lead, but you don't have to talk to qualify. You can talk to follow up on the status. And imagine agents that come and tell you, hey, You haven't followed up with this lead. Hey, this is the lead that's coming. Looks like your sweet spot. And I think that is very, very, very powerful.
Okay.
Those agents to be created inside, I think, are the only way the people are going to scale, because you don't want them wasting time in trying to qualify a lead, trying to understand, hey, is this a good lead? Should I go after them? And then there is a pipeline meeting. It's things happen much faster there, right?
Okay. So I mean, in a sense, what you're saying is that every handoff, I mean, with respect to GTM, I think now we are switching from talking about building, engineering, all of that in GTM. Generally, this, I think, I'm sure you've seen this, right? Every handoff induces a delay. There will be some context loss. We have seen that when from an SDR moving to AE, moving to customer success, there's always context loss. There is a drop off, a lot of sense. So what we did, I think that's what we're trying to communicate here. That what we did, we asked ourselves this week, like, hey, what if an agent runs our whole, the entire GTM journey, from leads to setting up meetings to pipeline to next steps.
Very interesting.
Right? That's where you're coming in, right?
Let's kind of break this up into multiple pieces, right? We talk about a lot of companies in the engineering world doing this, fixing a piece of code, debugging, being ready for production in minutes, if not hours. But this orchestration layer is actually quite possible to put it up even in a GTM organization. Specifically, let's spend some time talking about it in the sales organization suite, right?
Let's do that.
So how do you look at qualifying a lead today, right? What's the source of the lead? How do you qualify today?
So I would look at it like good example you gave, right? The engineering we spoke about. I mean, I would look at it like a GTM compression here, right? Literally, right? This is what we told Ramesh on Friday. I think if you remember, we had a chat with our team, right? We said, hey, actually, let's redesign our entire GTM flow, which has already been automated with a lot of AI stuff, right? Let's assume that we want to completely redesign our, our GTM workflow with agents, not just a tooling per se, right?
Correct.
But here is what I think we will start looking at implementing, right? It starts from sign up.
That's step one.
Step one.
Let's say someone visited your website and signed up.
So you look at whether, you do a little bit of deep research on what the company is. We have multiple sources of lead gen. We look at whether they come from a Comkill campaign or some other campaign. Then you look at if they are referral from some other things. Are they from a different company? For example, we win, the customer back. So is it from a past campaign? Are they a particular opportunity from a deal lost? All these things, anything and everything in between, right? And this meant a lot of manual work initially. Then you basically put in a lot of manual workflows, I would say. Now, what if we make it agentic? Understand the company ICP, understand the fit, build the signals, build to the extent where you have a demo setup ready for them.
So what's also happening in this case, you're reducing the dependency of an SDR trying to qualify the lead. Who's and God forbid for some reason the SDR doesn't turn up, the lead just becomes stale over there, right? So these are gaps, and these are orchestration agents that can help you get to the outcome much faster. I think the largest time we've spent, or rather we've spent in our meetings is this even lead qualified? Right, you get this lead, everyone is excited. It could be too big a company, too small a company, but the SDR is continuously pursuing them because we think it's a big opportunity. But all of this today can be done by an agent. You do not need to waste tons of time and SDR's time and gold to cut to the chase to say, hey, this is qualified lead or this is unqualified. This is disqualified. Let's move on.
Correct, and it's also done very instantly, Ramesh. For example, the agent. The Highperformr agent we're talking about will reach instantly, right? Will welcome the lead, will actually suggest the next steps, right? And it will simultaneously. The most important part is that some of these top of the line, what I said, is automated already now. But the place where we are taking the agents to the next level is that it will nudge the SDR.
So imagine this scenario, right, where our SDR gets nudged instead of us being the bad person. It's the Slack that's actually being the bad boss there. Hey, have you sent an email? Have you connected with him or her on LinkedIn? Hey, this is the message you could send them. So
and the lead has basically looked at your pricing page.
There you go.
Maybe this is an email you should send. So instead of SDR chasing the leads are actually pulled into the calendar. So that's the whole idea, right? And then, exactly you mentioned, Ramesh, there is a lot of automation already. If you go, if you're going to say that, hey, this is all brand new, that's not the truth, right? A lot of the top of the funnel, because we generally automate the customer conversation. When there's a sign up, you send a message, things like that, right? But the the follow-up and the nudge on the GTM team side, SDR, AE was manual.
Correct.
Now, that is where this whole thing.
So, do you think, I'm just going to shift a little bit, do you think CRMs that are available today are going to be building these custom agents, ready-made agents for you? How do you see this planning out? Because this is something we are building, kind of understanding of the situation and stuff like that. But imagine there's a startup and there's a large enterprise which already has millions of data already inside the Salesforce or HubSpot or CRM.
No, I think the Salesforce HubSpot would remain a beautiful, the system of record. They will continue to be there. But today, Ramesh, if you look at it, just because somebody got, let's say there are two companies having the same CRM, do they have the same revenue?
No, of course not.
They have different, because their sales processes are different, the way the whole execution is different. So these agents are more going to help you execute better. That's the whole idea.
I think the question is more about, are these CRM companies going to come up with, hey, these are ready-made agents for you?
No, they are. If you look at again, I'll go back to the results of these companies, HubSpot. They talk about, the prospecting agent, which is nothing but a glorified version of the calendar booking app, right? Which is helping them. But that is just, I think they will evolve. But the whole idea is that they probably will have one side of the story because they don't connect with a lot of other data sources outside themselves, right? But of course, they will all evolve. I think end of the day, all of these agents might be common over a period of time. I mean, if you're asking for a larger than question, big picture question, hey, will the SaaS evolve? Most likely.
All right.
There's no choice
That's
there.
Probably for them. But coming back to this topic of where we are today, the SDR, the meetings are actually set by the agent.
Correct.
And it's because it's there on the calendar, it's qualified,
Correct.
It knows whom you have to, it just nudges you to do the right things.
Correct.
But let's assume let's talk about what happens after the meeting.
Correct.
So the SDR has the meeting and then.
So all of this, like Ramesh, like what I said, right? After the meeting, agent analyzes the record, right? Extracts the outcome, identifies like what is the outcome of the call, updates the CRM, by the way, just that you mentioned, recommends the next steps, nudges the SDR, the salesperson, to send a follow-up email. If there is a meeting to be done, it can even book the meeting for all of them, right? So all of that is continuously, there's a follow-up happens. Now, the most important aspect of this agent, GTM agent we're talking about, it is not only from a customer facing, it is also your internal team facing.
Right.
That portion was ignored all the time. And a lot of these were put on the team, the dynamics, how you run your pipeline. Everything was the process which will determine the outcome. So even that is automated now. So the second phase of automation will be also internal facing. How do you nudge your team, enable your team to be able to drive
this entire piece, right? So
correct.
Again,
I have a question for you. Now, having heard this,
all right,
what does it mean for the GTM team size? I mean, I think if you remember, I clearly said the whole AI motion of agentic is going to get, I think, a lot more done with one-person team or smaller teams in terms of engineering and product building. What do you think is going to happen on the GTM side?
Let's talk about it. Very interesting piece, right? Because in typical SaaS companies or in any tech companies, right? Any lead that came in was always, there was a team that probably looked at it, cleansed it, call it the LDR or the market research or lead development team or whatever. Okay. That's anyway out of the window anyways.
Okay.
They've all been moved into teams that actually start orchestrating. Now within this, I think it's gone one step ahead where the GTM engineer becomes like the most important piece in this puzzle because the GTM engineer is now building these agents.
Correct.
Because he or she has absolute visibility on what is the kind of lead that one should go behind. And what happens in turns is, so you need a lesser number of the GTM team. You don't need a GTM engineering team. Like you don't need a massive team to look at the qualification of these leads.
Correct.
But what happens is all of these SDRs that are right now, they start becoming orchestrators. They do not, you don't need to have, a team all rolling up into a VP of, sales. If I were, everyone is a salesperson now, right? Because the lead has already been qualified. It hits your calendar. It's nudging you to do the right job. So the sales team, you actually need the entire sales team, not to qualify leads or to book meetings, but to ensure that you're doing the right job that the
full stack
is suggesting. Yeah, absolutely full stack.
So, but I will push back a little bit on the. I think, Ramesh, the way it's going, the whole GTM engineer was glorified. We know like companies like Clay glorified and created a lot of manual work because of that. I think that role will not exist in next 6 to 12 months.
I
There's
mean,
no
the
need for
GTM
it,
engineer
right?
will be there not to perform these tasks, but
Correct.
to just like be a, overseeing all of these agents in play.
Correct.
Right?
I would call them as an AI engineer in the GTM team. They will evolve instead of configuring these tools and configuration and stitching between things to tools, and that's what is
Correct,
being
that's
done by a GTM engineer today.
Correct.
I think that will fade out, and he or she will become an AI engineer who's part of the GTM team.
Right.
And like you said, of course, this is an very uncomfortable truth. I think AI doesn't eliminate roles. I think we keep saying this again and again.
Correct.
But it will collapse layers.
It will.
For sure. For sure.
So, which means you don't need to have a sales SDR reporting into a SDR, head of SDR reporting into a manager, and then a VP of business development. Everyone starts doing their own job and bringing revenue to the company.
Correct. So, but there is, a lot, very interesting part, right? All of that is great, Ramesh, right? You bring in agents, you basically reduce the GTM engineers, you basically remove the VPs and the managers, if you want to put it straight. But what about the customer relationship? So, do you think when you compress the team, do we lose the human touch?
Oh no, I think those people are the front line again. That's once you have the customer inside, you cannot let go of customer. They are the backbone, right? Just like the agent doesn't replace the relationship; it enables it. It's like similarly, today the SDR is probably spending 60% of their work on busy work, like trying to update the CRM, right? So today, if you see the customer support people, I think they have to build their own agents on that side as well.
Okay. So, Ramesh, in essence, right, and we spoke about this multiple times, right? I think there's always one thing you keep saying in GTM is all about sales capacity. So, what it means is that you're saying with all these new agents coming into the picture, where we also help agents, like how we are saying every developer will have a bunch of agents to help build products. Every GTM, every sales rep, whoever is the GTM team will have a bunch of agents to basically be able to, kind of drive more revenue pipeline. What it means is that it doesn't mean fewer touch points, but it means more smarter touch points. If you look at it, last, I would say 2 years, because of the AI, there's like proliferation of content. I see like emails coming in, long emails from SDR, sales reps with absolutely no, thoughtfulness in it, right? A lot of times, right? If you ask them to do an email, they immediately send an email. So all of them will come down. You will have like fewer touch points, but are good quality touch points, right?
Absolutely. I think coming back to what happens to the customer support, I think they will have the whole team will have their own agents, and let's assume a customer get a response at, let's say, 2 a.m.
Okay.
They will not wait for their rep to say, okay, let me get back from lunch, right? Okay. That's too late for them.
Okay.
They need it right now. So they need judgment. They need a real conversation. So it enables these humans for real good conversation. The agents will help them saying, hey, whatever the issue is, and you will have, it will prepare these the humans for a good conversation that they can have with their customers, right? So it's not going to be the end of
the thing. But fair, Ramesh. I think what you're saying is this. It makes sense to talk about a support query coming in the midnight, and then. But what happens to the people whose roles get compressed? What happens?
Like we said, right? They will all be orchestrators. Everyone will have an agent, and they will ideally move up. There is no hierarchy, but they will all move up in the quality of jobs that they do. I think that's an important piece. We all have to kind of get to the harsh reality.
Okay. So what you're saying is not about the headcount anymore. Like
it's not about headcount anymore.
In sales, is always pipeline is directly proportional to the number of sales capacity and all the time. We have heard this for decades now.
Correct.
Right? So what you're saying is
that still remains. The number of people in the sales still remains. It's how fast can you reach out to a customer.
Okay, it's about the kind of people, and then how much
the quality conversations that you can have. Like you get to a sales guy and say, hey, how was this lead? You get two answers. Either it was, hey, there are no conversations, which means it ends up being a poor lead, or we had a very good conversation. The sales team needs, but who preps them for each conversation? I think that's the agentic era that we are seeing, right?
So interesting. So now, what does it mean? For somebody who's looking at this, right, podcast, and we're talking about a lot of things, right? What does it mean? What does it mean in the next 3 months, 6 months? Because things change so fast, right? What do you mean?
I think you have to think about what it means for this month. I mean, that's how fast things are changing.
Okay.
Right? For startups, it's obviously great news. because you can configure all of this right away, and you can get it up and started. There are so many things that we can do immediately, but it's for large enterprises that they have to go back to the board and figure out what needs to be done to remain agile in a GTM team, right? Even in an engineering team, for that matter.
Of course. In fact, Ramesh, it gives a different perspective, right? Startups specifically, we mentioned about startups like us, right? We always were thinking we're behind hiring people. We always wanted to hire. I mean, I'm sure the last 2.5 years, one constant thing you and I have been doing is only about hiring.
Yeah.
Right. I think now some of those things will change. I think the best, we look for best operators, people with a lot of depth, right? Who would not look like specialists, but they will know how to orchestrate, be able to conduct, complex workflows with AI, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm curious talk about the org chart you mentioned, right? What do you think? What was the future org chart for GTM? And I mean quickly.
The future org chart, we'll call it orchestrator. But it's more from it's not going to be VP, director, senior manager, and then it comes to an IC role. Right? It could be an operator who executes, and then there's an agent. Now, I don't know if you have a senior agent or a VP agent, but I think it will just collapse to being, and everyone has revenue targets. You all move up, right? Everyone moves up with a revenue target, how much more, what needs to be done if it's an enterprise deal versus an SMB deal. You will have all of those complications always. But I think with everyone having their own agent, it's the entire organization will collapse to becoming more flat. And that's what we need. We are all looking for daily execution, not for one person to tell the other what needs to be done, because that job is now an agent's job.
Okay. So, in fact, I just want to get to the chase, right? I think this is what we want to do this week, right? We're not talking about this quarter, right?
Absolutely. It's
so that is the I would say, quantum of things you want to do, how things are changing so fast. So you just want to get to the bottom of it, right? Now, where do you think, what would you suggest? What would you suggest we do, as a
I think we have to redesign the entire system.
Sri. You mean like you want to audit your team size? Or
definitely.
Team, right?
Audit team sizes on one side, but let's again go back to the system and see where our SDRs probably are spending time. Can we cut that short to what happens when a lead comes in? Let the agent take over, right? Even if it means from a product standpoint, a PM usually designs the feature set and all of that, right? In this case, an orchestrator will design the workflow, right? So when I say on an orchestrator, it could be you or me, and then say use AI tools to say, hey, I want to build a dashboard. Right? Sri, you built this last week to say, how should our screen now look like for the customer to know what's the next best action for a lead?
Correct.
Right? You were not like a director of product trying to tell the front end and back end engineer what needs to be done, right? It's hard to visualize, but you actually got it to visualize.
Correct. I mean, I could see it just collapsed I think it just compressed the roles, right? But Harsh and I were having a very interesting conversation. We'll talk about it in another session. But if you look at it, this is what we did as next, right? Let's pick one workflow, the most repetitive, most manual, most, I think, the time consuming, the soul crushing one, right? Let's say, the lead qualification, I'm talking about GTM, or the customer onboarding, right? Or the proposal generation, right? I mean, we should ask ourselves, like, what would this look like if an agent is being asked to do it? And we have to just build it, right?
What would you do in that case? Like, would you get an engineer?
I would not build it. I would not pick up an engineer. I will go find an existing agent. Could it be from, Claude or GTM, GPT or Manas or one of those things, wherever, right? And I will run the workflow first manually.
How will you do that? Can you just give us an idea?
For example, I will go to Manas or, or even, the Claude or GPT, right? Where I will go, I think, find an existing workflow, right? Give a prompt. Right. Let's take an example of doing a proposal. I'll just pick up my existing proposals. Right. I think would build a nice prompt to basically qualify the input and see if I can generate a Word doc, which is exactly looks like a proposal for my next customer.
Let's get back to the GTM piece of it. Let's say a lead comes in through one of our webinars.
Correct.
What will a Manas what would you do inside?
Correct. So today, I think if you look at it, Ramesh, right, we basically, when there is a new lead comes in, we push it to a segmented Highperformr, right? Then we push it directly. We run some AI for qualification, which is running automated, right? And then we push it to HubSpot.
Correct.
right? And then we expect the salesperson to click in or SDR to click in. So that I would short circuit. In the Highperformr segment where we qualify a lead, we get let's say 100 signups, you qualify 20, right? Out of the 20, we push it to the CRM already, which is all done with AI. Today, even what we do today is AI, but it's completely on a customer prospecting and filtering point of view. Now those 20, I would basically assign an agent which has an email ID, which is let's say Rakesh at Highperformr.ai. I would send a welcome email to the sales rep, see what is happening there. If I'll also check whether the person is looking at a website, give a link to him, book a meeting for the SDR, then would nudge the SDR to get.
So until then, you're saying the SDR doesn't even come in.
Doesn't have to come in at all. Right?
How efficient do you think this would be?
I think today,
in the real world?
think Ramesh, we are using LinkedIn outreach. We are using our own Highperformr LinkedIn outreach for a lot of these things.
Yep.
We
are seeing great success.
We are seeing good success. Now, what if I think today you have a person responding to those LinkedIn conversations? There's an inbox already in Highperformr where you see all the messages. Now, what if I basically put an agent which ensures that I have a good conversation, I send a screenshot of Highperformr, and then if the prospect is willing to see a demo, I put a book a meeting.
You think all of these agents can be configured in a week?
Less than a week, couple of days. I think in the next pod, maybe we should just show the UI. Maybe I'll give it a couple of weeks to run it, and then I think we should show the results. I mean, you should. I mean, this is what I'll do. I think we should take a challenge, right? Let's baseline the number of meetings we're doing.
Absolutely, let's do
right. Let's see if we can increase the meetings by 5% every week.
But just getting this up and running is something super exciting for all of us. Not because we want to kind of challenge ourselves in the tech side of things, but it's actually we are seeing a lot of momentum when it comes to using agents.
Absolutely.
And qualifying them already. Today, our agents are able to kind of understand what is the kind of email or messaging that needs to be sent. But imagine you even use it 5 steps before in qualifying the lead and then sending an email. That's
qualification is already done. I'm just talking engaging, right? I think let's this week, Ramesh, we are here. Let's audit one use case. You said lead, the new sign up workflow. We'll pick that one workflow, run it, and then you decide.
All right. So we have a challenge right on this table as we speak. So we will get this up and running. We are pretty confident because there needs to be more orchestrators getting the deal inside rather than qualifying the deal.
Right? Correct. So if you're building GTM or you're building pipeline right now, I think this is a shift to watch.
Absolutely.
It's not about AI features, Ramesh. It's not about AI tooling and all of that. It is about redesigning your workflow.
Absolutely. And we are really looking forward to it. And we'll keep you updated about how this went. And we'll see how much it took the revenue. Awesome. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
And thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Awesome,
Yes.
Ramesh. Bye.